currency complex at all-time highs. Could you imagine when you first came up with this idea that you have dreamed up over $500 billion of value so far within the idea of smart contracts and the Ethereum ecosystem?
I mean, honestly, no. Well, like when I started it, I kind of expected it would be just this kind of tiny side project, and we'd get it done in a couple of months, and then I'd go back to university. Definitely did not expect this for Ethereum. I mean, did not expect this level of just size and attention for the crypto space in general.
How are you seeing the DeFi ecosystem develop?
Like, first of all, the DeFi ecosystem is definitely maturing. Just the fact that these projects are continuing to survive. And like, obviously there's like a lot of the kind of ones around the edges that that get hacked from time to time. But if you just focus on like the core ones, like the ones that have existed for a few years, like, you know, the Maker, Uniswap, like all of the like ones that just people have been working on since the beginning, they're just continuing to be stable, continuing to do what people want them to do, continuing to just, you know, grow and just provide the, you know, whatever the functionality that people have been expecting of them. And I think trust in those platforms is just continuing to increase. And that by itself, I think, is just going to make people more and more comfortable over time in being able to rely on these platforms. So I think the trends that we're going to start seeing over the next few years is basically just more ongoing adoption, like more kinds of people using DeFi. The NFT space that we just had a panel about right before this, right? That's I think that's an interesting example of something that I've been talking about, like with regard to the crypto space for a long time, which is that, like, I don't think the future is financial or non-financial. I think it's kind of mixed financial. Like, I think it's projects that are not just about money in nature, but that still benefit a lot from being directly plugged into this kind of massive value layer that we've created, you know, with the kind of Ethereum and the greater crypto ecosystem. Like, you know, if you have an NFT, you know, like buying and selling it requires an auction. That's smart contracts. Like, if you buy it, you might be buying it with a coin. Often a coin is DAI, and DAI is itself created by a DeFi platform. So there's just like DeFi components that are being plugged in all over the place, right? And like, Ethereum does not have a killer app. It has a killer ecosystem. Like, the value comes from all of these different pieces that are able to talk to each other. So I expect that as we see more adoption, more work in NFTs, in say the blockchain gaming space, in a kind of, you know, quote, the metaverse, as people start slowly figuring out, you know, what the heck that word actually means in the blockchain context. You know, as people keep figuring out how, like, what DAOs are actually for, like, all of these things are going to plug into financial layers of different kinds, right? And, you know, there's different kinds of financial layers. There's like the decentralized exchanges, there's the stable coins, there's all of the different versions of all of those things. There's different kinds of markets. And as more of these new applications keep bringing in new users, I think we're going to just see all these basic building blocks just keep on kind of prospering, growing, stabilizing themselves. People will see more and more like which parts of DeFi land are really here to stay, and the parts of DeFi land that are here to stay are, you know, like, I think they really will be here to stay, and I think we're going to just see a lot of value kind of slowly and steadily coming out of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistakenly think of DeFi, as you say, as just this part of a financial system that's disintermediating the banks. But actually what's going on is it feels like there's an entirely new parallel financial system and economic system that's being built. It's a whole ecosystem. It's not just about finance. That value layer of the NFT space has been fascinating because it's kind of exploded, and it's very nascent right now because, you know, we've got some of the leading projects with, you know, CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club. People are kind of coalescing around these communities, but it feels like it's still very early with where NFTs are going. Where do you think they might be headed? Are we going to see intellectual property rights, all sorts of other things on NFTs, insurance contracts? How are you thinking this might develop?
I think it's, like NFTs in general, first of all, are like a really big category, right? Like the word just like literally stands for non-fungible token. And so like it literally just is like the entire subset of tokens where instead of a token that has many units that all represent the same thing, it's a token where each individual unit represents a different thing.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Like that's big, right? Like pieces of art are NFTs. ENS domain names are NFTs. Like items in video games like are NFTs. Like things in Loot Project are NFTs, right? Like so we're going to see many different kinds of NFTs. Some NFTs are going to represent things that are purely crypto native, so whose value basically only comes from people within the crypto space being willing to pay attention to them. And there's also going to be NFTs that represent assets that have some kind of legal power in the physical world. Like, I mean, intellectual property rights are one example. Real estate is another example. Like, just like we have stable coins, right? Like we have the algorithmic stable coins that are kind of purely crypto based. And then we also have like USDC, like institutionally backed crypto stablecoins that are pointers to like dollars that are being held in bank accounts. So, same with NFTs. Like we have NFTs that'll have their value entirely derived from things happening in crypto land, and we'll have NFTs that have value that come from kind of connections to like existing legal property rights that we already have, but that maybe are currently not that efficient to kind of like actually use in interesting ways and do things with.
And the element of composability around all of this allows there to be lending markets that build around these NFTs as well. So that's where kind of we're starting to see lending markets developing around some of the artwork and other bits and pieces.
Yep.
And you can just see that all of these bits of the jigsaw are starting to build on top of each other at a ridiculous rate.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of different combinations that are really fun. Like just to give a couple of examples, like one is the concept of fractional ownership. Like you could see that being applied to NFTs. You could see that even be applied to NFTs representing real estate. You could see NFTs being linked together with DAOs. So like think of something like a condominium association, right? Like if NFTs become real estate ownership, then a condominium association can just be a DAO. And, instead of it being governed through like these boring, like often pen and paper based 20th century processes, you can just like, have all the votes just like happen through some contract on chain, right? So there's a lot of different ways to kind of connect each and every one of these, every one of these components. And like most of the interesting applications, I think, end up connecting different pieces together already.
Yeah, one of the things about tokenizing real estate that's super interesting to me is a lot of real estate that performs well is expensive. And most people can't participate. The moment you tokenize it, anybody can participate. Anybody can put 5% of their savings in a $100 million property. And that's
exactly.
It's an extraordinary change. And liquidity of real estate markets is going to change forever once this starts happening.
I mean, in real estate specifically, right? Like the non-fungibility of it is like, in many ways, you can see it as like as a source of just a huge number of problems, right? Because like, if you live in a city today, you're either a homeowner, in which case you're just massively overexposed to one asset, or you're a renter, in which case you're negatively exposed to that asset. And you're even like, you could say negatively exposed to like basically your community being a good place to live, right? So like giving people access to options that are kind of in between those two extremes on that spectrum, like partial ownership, some kind of system where ownership builds up over time. Using crypto like loans to be able to actually facilitate that. I think there's lots of opportunities for really cool things to happen there.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear. And things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.